Hey friend, you aren't leaving your firm just to work nonstop and make less money.
You wanted freedom, fulfillment, and a practice that actually supports your life.
Welcome to Off the Clock, the podcast for lawyers and law firm owners who are ready to break up with the billable hour
and build a profitable, joyful, client-loving practice that loves you back.
We're Gwen Griggs
and Whitney Harper,
lawyers, law firm founders, and co-creators of Advos Pro.
Each episode, we share stories, strategies, and bold steps to help you stop surviving and start thriving on your own terms.
So let's get you off the clock and into a practice you're meant to build. Welcome, everyone. My name is Gwen Griggs, and I'm here with Whitney Harper, my partner and co-founder and co-host of Off the Clock.
Co-conspirator.
Co-conspirator, yes. Co-breaker of the traditional model. And we are here. We have a really special guest with us today, Steve Fretzin. And Steve has come into Whitney's life, and Whitney's been on his podcast. And then in other world, Steve's come into my life, and we so all roads lead to Steve, especially as it comes to business development and business development for lawyers. And so I'm going to kick off, Steve, with actually, this is a burning question for me. Like, why lawyers? Why?
I enjoy punishment.
I
enjoy pain and punishment, apparently. Torture's my other thing I enjoy. So it never was a blip on my radar. My father passed last year, but retired after 40 years of practicing, and I never thought that I would be a lawyer or have anything to do with lawyers, and that was the case. And I really, it was fine. And then in 2008-9, when the recession hit, I had been running a sales-free selling coaching operation in Chicago, and guess what? Lawyers lost their jobs. Lawyers got hours cut. Lawyers were, let go from GC roles, and I'm getting calls left and right. And I just never realized how little they learn little they learn in law school or at the law firm level about much of the business of law, in particular business development. And then when you take that combined with a sales-free methodology, who likes being sold to? Let's see, nobody. So then you put those two together and you end up with something that really, within about 16 months, I said, this is it. I'm done. This is the industry that needs me. This is the industry I'm beginning to love. That has gone up tenfold in the last 17 years since I've been doing this, and it's been an absolute pleasure.
That's awesome. So you were saying, was your dad a practicing attorney?
Yeah, he was actually one of the last generalists. He just knew everything about everything, and any room he was in, he was the smartest guy in the room. And if you don't believe me, you could have asked him. He would have told you how smart he was. But
like so many lawyers,
yeah, right? a little bit of ego, but no, he was all about fairness and kindness and helping the little person against the big company, big insurance company, and he had. He was on my podcast, if anybody's interested, episode number 200, and I need to go back to listen to it if I need a good cry, because I know as soon as I start listening to it, I'm going to let it, it'll be a good release for me. Yeah. I miss him a ton, and but it was really wonderful as a non-lawyer having, 16 years of amazing conversations and interactions with him, and he couldn't have been more supportive and happy that I ended up being in the industry that he loves so much.
That's so cool. I love that you were able to have that recorded conversation with him and for all time, and we all get to listen to it too. I think that's a very, very cool treasure.
I also have a lot of videos of him dancing and by himself, like that we videotaped him when he had a whiskey, and those are also treasured.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Whiskey Whitney might be very interesting.
Oh, really? Okay. Might have to see some of those videos
might be a
coming
nickname.
out.
Yeah,
there we go.
I try to be sure there's no video of that sort of incident.
That's true.
It's harder and harder to avoid videos these days, right? Everybody's got their camera out.
Yeah,
right. I'm her protector there, though. I'm going to make sure that there's
she
no
sure
cameras.
is. Everybody needs one. Everybody needs one. Guardian Gwen and Whiskey Whitney.
That's fun. So Steve, tell us a little bit about, so you went from not focusing on lawyers, right, but focusing on sales and sales free selling and building and business development. And then you decided lawyers was your focus.
Mm-hmm.
What were some of the biggest like ahas or surprises or things you didn't expect when you started to focus on law firms or lawyers?
I mean, I think going back to what I said earlier, like I just had no idea how little involvement or time or education that was provided or not provided to lawyers in law school and at the law firm level. So that was interesting to me. The other thing that's interesting is I had spent so much time with entrepreneurs and sales professionals where they had a tremendous amount of bad habits and old school ways of doing sales. And so then when I'm teaching sales free selling to someone who's a salesperson, I had to like take a whiteboard with crap all over it and try to erase it and then reintegrate them into a model that they could follow. And I think I was very good at doing that. With lawyers, it's like the whiteboard is already clean generally, or they wipe it clean themselves. It's like, I don't like pitching and presenting and convincing anyway. And so you're going to show me how to not do that and make more money and bring in more clients. Okay. And so they're erasing it for me if there's anything there anyway. So I think it's just the idea that I'm able to work from a clean slate and start to help them internalize plans and methodologies and systems into something where they're generally just winging it and just like whatever works, I hope. And whether it's networking or it's how to, lock up a new client or how to get, referrals from their existing clients, it's all this big mystery. And again, so the idea that there could be systems in place, I think that was like a big aha for them. And also for me, just to see how well they are at, first of all, appreciating education. I think there's a love for education that lawyers have that others in other industries like sales professionals and entrepreneurs in particular don't like and don't have.
That is so true. Yeah.
Right. So the fact that I run a class where we're learning and working on skills, I think that also helps differentiate me from other coaches, but they're getting like an MBA in business development, being in a class with other lawyers from around the world in all different practice areas, from solos to big firm. And it's really a tight knit group of people that all work off each other with me. And I think that's been a real treat, and then watching them develop and utilize the things they're learning, because they don't want to wing it and they don't want to have to just figure it out on their own or try their own way. They'd rather just say, I can take Steve's way, I can personalize it. He can help me personalize it to my way. And then, together we can go out and bring in the business. And then they internalize it as a way of doing things the rest of their career. So for me, it's been absolutely a pleasure. And I'm getting to watch all these top Rainmakers that are building multi-million-dollar books of business. And the humble beginnings of where we started is always a fun story.
So Steve, I'm dying to know this because you mentioned it earlier. Lawyers have no shortage of ego, right? And we do love to learn, but we hate to be the person in the room who doesn't know the answer, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how do you take a lawyer who needs to improve business development skills and has a healthy lawyer dose of ego and help them get over that to the place where they can actually be vulnerable? I mean, it sounds like part of it might be the fact that you have this kind of close-knit group where it's sort of a safe space. But I'm so curious what you found that's special about you that lets you break through that.
Well, I mean, I think I let them know right off the bat, this is a marathon, not a sprint, and it's something we want to see as dramatic of changes as possible, and we want to see how quickly we can build the book. But most of the people I'm working with are in their 30s, 40s, and 50s. They have a runway in front of them, and if they can just like double their business or get to a significant number their first year and then grow that every year, like they're fine with it. But I think what you're asking though is about how I'm connecting with them to get them to do the things and internalize the things. I think it's repetition. I think it's role playing and practicing. So I'll give you an example. I'm teaching them a skill of how to set a game plan for a new meeting. All right. So you have a prospective client, you're going to go meet with that client, and you want to run the meeting in a way that's going to be productive. So there's a specific game plan that I teach them to utilize and say and get engagement in that. And if I just teach it to them and tell them what to say and do, that's one way. But what I'll do then is I'll put them in breakout rooms and allow them to practice and try the skill out. What's comfortable? What's uncomfortable? What feedback can they get from the other person that they're role playing with if they skipped a step? Then we come back, we talk about it, and then they'll go through that multiple times over a 6-month period until it just becomes something that they can do without batting an eye. So I think there's that internalization happens through that practice and improvement of in the consistency of that. And I also have, I'll give you one more thing. I have 2 clients at big firms that just started last week and this week. Okay, so they don't know anything. All right, very little. Meanwhile, I have people in the class that have been there for 4, 5, almost 6 months. And so they're sitting back and taking it all in. The people that are 4, 5, 6 months in, they're the ones when I ask questions are answering all the questions. And they're setting the tone and the example for the newer people. And so I think it's a combination of me and the class and the way it's structured that it's getting people more comfortable to feel like they can step up and ask a question. And it's amazing actually in this confidential environment how they're willing to be vulnerable and they're willing to share because everyone's paid in, everyone's bought in, everyone's talking the same language. And so there's some camaraderie where I think they feel very safe.
Yeah, we see that in our group sessions, in our offerings at Advos Pro, where the people who've been around 6 months are very open and willing to dive right in and do the work out loud or strategic planning or whatever it is. And so then the new person feels pretty comfortable to do that, which is tremendous. I love that.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about the people that are willing to put their time and money and energy down into something, it's like I do. And I do Pilates. I've been doing Pilates for 2.5 years. I'm the only dude in the room. Trust me. Yeah. And it's me in a room of women. And which is fine, except she keeps saying, ladies, let's do this, and ladies, let's do that. I'm just like, I'm a lady. All right, I'll take it. That's fine.
We've been here together for years, Steve.
Exactly. So, but it's the idea that I'm in a group, I'm in a class with a teacher. Everyone's there to do the same thing. Everyone's paid in to accomplish the goal of becoming fit and flexible and all those things. So I think it's like that kind of an environment where we all know why we're here, and so why not be open and let ourselves take in a little bit of feedback, safe space.
Yeah, that makes such great sense, right? And your cohort is someone who's paid money and is investing time, right? Yeah. And so many lawyers, right, are going to self-select out, right? They're going to say, I don't have time for that, right? Or I know all the things I need to know. I'm good at this. And I'm curious too, no one has a favorite child, but if you look back over the last 17 years that we say out loud on a podcast, when you look back over the last 17 years, do you have like a student who you saw come in and then now have seen their progress and you sort of like your star student and tell us a little bit about that journey, that specific example? There's probably too many to say I have a favorite. I have a lot of favorites, and some of them I've worked with for 2 months, some of them I've worked with for 10 years. And it's hard to tell you all the different stories I have, but one in particular is an employment attorney at a big labor and employment firm in Chicago, and he started out as like a senior associate. He was doing networking, and the way that he describes it is, sheer force and effort, tremendous amount of hours being put towards business development prior to working with me. And when he came to me, I mean, this is a sharp guy. This is an extroverted person. This is someone who can shake hands and kiss babies and do all that stuff. But he was just expending so much energy and time on this networking thing and trying to develop business. He had in the wrong targets and all this stuff. So the idea that he could engage me, work with me to develop a plan, learn systems to make things more efficient and predictable, like getting a client that he would chase after for a year to a no in one meeting
Now that sounds counterintuitive and counterproductive, but think about how much time you're spending chasing after the wrong client for a year. And to get that 20, 30,
no is
right?
the best or second best answer.
Yeah, it is the second best answer. But the other piece of it is we all want to know why. Why should they be a no? Why should we get them to know? Or why should they say no to us? And so having a system to follow that drives to the truth and drives to the honesty of why we should work together or why we shouldn't work together, and avoid the ghosting and the think about it's and the maybes and I'll get back to you and all the stuff that drives our time, on a windmill going around and around. So he would tell the story better than this, but he works with me, makes partner, and doubles his book, and then he doubles it again. He makes equity, and then he doubles it again, and then he doubles it again. So like over 10 years, he's got into this massive, big player book of business at this firm, and he has transitioned into being a leader in one of my Rainmaker roundtables. He continues to say, hey, if anybody wants to talk to me about my story and journey with you. And so like, for example, I just had him speak with a new prospective client named Michael, and Michael just talked to Neil. Neil came back and said, I just talked to Michael, and I think he'd be great and everything. I just talked to Michael. We're working it out. So, and then just taking part and staying with me in the roundtables and being a leader. I just, I can't ask for a better friend. I can't ask for a better client or a better story than someone like that.
Thanks for joining us on Off the Clock. If you're ready to design a law practice that's profitable, joyful, and built around your life, not just your clients,
come check out The Path to Promance and take the Promance scorecard at advospro.com.
And if this episode spoke to you, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with another lawyer who needs to hear it.
You deserve a practice that loves you back. Let's build it together.